What's up, heathens? I'm John Gleason, the Godless engineer, and today we're responding to Zaunstar. Now, I know Zaunstar, you don't know me at all. If you do happen to even watch my video here, I know that there have been some shitty responses thrown your way, mainly from rhino-headed idiots. But, you know, I felt like throwing in my 2 cents because I feel like I have a kind of unique perspective on the topic you brought up.
So why are we not united in fighting racial injustice?
Well, I don't know. I guess I have to partially agree with you here. Well, for one thing, and as far as the atheist community goes, which is what you were talking about, I feel like we primarily are like united in fighting racial injustice. Partially. There was this one preacher up in Tennessee who preached that, interracial marriages were we're wrong, we're not with God, or, God forbade them or whatever. Like, it wasn't sanctioned by God.
Tell me, what's the difference in preaching against bobbed hair, painted face, shorts, all this, that, and other, being worldly, and we let this worldly means come right in. And let me tell you right up front, any of you young people, you want to marry a black man, you girls, don't ask me to do it, because I will not. I refuse.
And there was a huge uproar, especially in the atheist community, but as well as outside the atheist community. So as far as racial disparity goes and everything, racial relations, I think that on some level we are united in, the fight for racial equality. Because, just that one single instance right there should show you how the culture reacts, like the culture outside of the atheist community and within the atheist community reacts to this thing. But I feel like attaching some kind of racial disparity or whatnot onto atheism is really expanding atheism past what it really needs to do. Atheism in and of itself is, concerned with one question, whether or not there is a God, and things surrounding that. So I think, exposing it to the topic that you're bringing up here, is really taking it out of its context, and you're tacking on things and onto it, and you're just going to get disappointed by it. You're basically setting a goal that will disappoint you because it can never meet that goal.
If you have black friends who are willing to talk about their experiences, ask them if they've ever been stopped for driving while black, or because they look like a suspect they're searching for, or because they had a tail light out.
Okay, I've been profiled as well, primarily for my age and what I look like. I was told by a Walmart employee that they profiled me as soon as I walked into the store. What I think that we need to focus on is the misuse of profiling, and I think that's what you're getting at here. But I mean, like, I've known black people to get profiled a certain way, and then I've also known white people to get profiled a certain way and stopped by the cops. When I was younger, me and my friends, we would be out at like a park hanging around. The cops would come up, check us out, and, question us and everything. Like, I've been through that. One of my friends was just walking home to his house one day and got stopped by the cops because he was a teenager walking. There's multiple reasons why police profile. Now, to get to the point of your thing here, is, do I think that black people are more unnecessarily profiled than white people? Yes. But I just think that we need to focus on the misuse of profiling and just the general use of profiling.
Put all this together and you have many decades of grievances against their treatment by police. It's starting to come to a head now because in the past, the police were simply given deference in court, and if they said that's what happened, then that's what happened.
Well, yeah, and hence the problem with the power portion of the law enforcement. The law enforcement is broken. Part of the problem now is how police officers are being trained. They're basically trained to shoot first and ask questions later. And that's a problem, and we need to fix it.
But now everybody's got a video camera right in their pocket. A large and growing amount of video footage of unarmed people being executed by the police is now out there. Some cover-ups involving government officials trying to stop the public from knowing about police shootings has been exposed as well. This has incensed many Americans of all races, and the Black Lives Matter movement was formed to try and fix this problem by introducing more accountability around deadly force, body cameras, and transparency in officer-involved shooting investigations.
I have to stop you right there, though, Zaunstar. You say that the Black Lives Matter movement was formed to reform the police force, get more body cameras on police, and hold the police accountable for their actions. That part I agree with. I do. I agree with that, but that's not where Black Lives Matter, that's not why Black Lives Matter was formed. Black Lives Matter was formed just after the Trayvon Martin case because of the verdict that was given in that case. They formed Black Lives Matter, the hashtag got started, and it took off from there. After the Trayvon Martin case, they started focusing on these cop-related shootings, and it kind of evolved into that. But it's quite disingenuous for you to say that it was formed for that express purpose when it really wasn't. It was formed for the express purpose of bringing attention to the disparity of blacks. Not in blacks versus the police force or anything like that, but it's blacks versus our culture. Basically, the Black Lives Matter movement are implementing ideas from the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, and the Black feminist movement. I support the civil rights movement portion of Black Lives Matter. Now, the part of the Black Lives Matter movement that I do not support is the Black Power movement and the Black feminist movement. You ring-a-ding-a-ding-a, red bells should be going off right now, okay? The modern feminists, the third wave feminists, they're not exactly a happy bunch, okay? They're very detrimental to the feminist movement in general. The things that they do actually work to suppress, like, actual rape allegations, actual disparity against women and whatnot. And in the same right, the Black Power movement works against the racial unity that you're looking for here. The Black Power movement part of Black Lives Matter is working against itself. And the civil rights portion of Black Lives Matter has let the Black Power movement take over as the face of the Black Lives Matter movement. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, it's this shit right here.
We are trying to be reasonable. We're gonna let you on the mic. We're gonna give you the mic. We will, after Senator Sanders.
Pride Toronto organizers invited the protest group Black Lives Matter to march as honored guests in this year's parade. About 2/3 of the way along the route, the invited protest group held a protest, a mid-intersection sit-in stopping the parade. They threatened to stay put until Pride Toronto organizers signed a list of demands that included excluding police force floats and booths from Pride.
We are not telling individual cops and individuals that they can't participate. What we are saying is that the presence of 7 police forces creates an unsafe situation for a number of marginalized communities.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Do you think Black Lives Matter?
Please be quiet.
It's all right, give it 20 minutes. The statistics for black incarceration are about to go up.
What we need to see is more of this shit.
You may ask yourselves, are these acts related to Trinity College? If you have that question, then you are privileged in a way that many students of color are not. We do not have the privilege of considering the web of oppression that entangles people of color all across America.
A lot of negative aftermath about that, and it wasn't supposed to be as big as it came out to be. But after all of the racism and discrimination that people were laying out on campus, we decided that we could no longer stay silent about this.
There's been real progress in some cities on these issues because of this pressure. Recently, there were 2 attacks on police that resulted in several being murdered in Dallas and in Baton Rouge. Both of the killers were on record as saying that they didn't think that what BLM was doing was sufficient and decided to turn to violence. So it was not BLM that was advocating killing cops.
Well, you see, here's the problem, Zon, about that is that Black Lives Matter is a decentralized movement. It started out as a social, like a hashtag activism. That's how it started out, and there is an actual organization now called Black Lives Matter, which that's fine. They have an official stance on it, but you can't sit there and say that these guys were not part of Black Lives Matter. You can't, because they were. They were part of Black Lives Matter, and they disagreed with what their cohorts were doing. They wanted to implement the Black Power portion of the Black Lives Matter movement, and you can't disregard the Black Power part of the movement. They are a substantial force in the movement. And you can't sit there and tell me that this particular fucking picture right here with the woman that says oink, oink, bang, bang, with the Black Lives Matter movement right in the background, you can't tell me that they are not part of the movement.
Oink, bang, bang, oink, oink, bang, bang, oink, oink, bang, bang, oink, oink, bang, bang, oink, oink, bang, bang.
Are they the face of the movement? Unfortunately, yeah, I would have to agree. They are the face of the movement right now because the civil rights portion, the portion of the Black Lives Matter movement, they don't stand up against these people. They might put out one particular statement or anything like that, but they don't actively act against them. And you know why? It's because they can't say that they're not part of the Black Lives Matter movement. They can't say that they're not part of it. That's the problem with the decentralized movement, though. Just like, think about Anonymous. Anonymous is a decentralized activist movement, hacktivist movement, actually. And see, the problem there is that you have all of these different cells of the movement. Each cell has their own particular brand of hacktivism. In Steubenville, you had the guy cracking in to, the email system and everything like that to expose a rapist and a cover-up of a pretty brutal rape. You had that. But then you've also got the assholes that would, that hack people just for the lulz, and have no actual social justice reason behind it for them to do it. You can agree with different parts of Anonymous. You can agree with the Steubenville hacker, Anonymous KY. You can agree with him in hacking it because the police were covering it up. There's no way anybody else is going to be able to do anything. I agree with that hacktivist right there. I applaud him. I wish I had his skills. I really do. But then it's like I don't agree with assholes that are like hacking Twitter accounts or hacking all of this stuff that don't have a purpose. The same thing can be said about the Black Lives Matter movement. The Black Lives Matter movement has a cell in it that is being violent, that is promoting violence, that is, calling for the death of cops. And you can't turn your eye to it. Like, you can't just turn away and act like they're not there. You can't just be like, I don't see anything. I don't fucking see a goddamn thing. I'm looking over here at Martin Luther King Jr. That's who I'm looking at. I don't see Malcolm X over here. I see this motherfucker.
The Dallas shooter was actually killed by a remote-controlled bomb after negotiations broke down, in what was basically the first domestic drone strike. I've been surprised at how few people seem to be troubled by this. So now the question is, how should we treat BLM in the atheist community? If this kind of thing were disproportionately happening to atheists, we'd be justifiably
Okay, ironically, the background that you have there is actually denounced by the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, the chapter that's local to that group actually denounced it, saying that those are not our tactics. That's not how we get things done. Promoting unity with the police, promoting good relations with the police is not our goal. Our goal is not to have a unified society and to have a safe police force where we can trust them and count on them again. No. That's not what we want.
But a lot of YouTube atheists have made videos against Black Lives Matter too, so opinion seems to be split. One video simply spliced together about 2 minutes of footage of marchers chanting violent slogans 3 times in the past 2 years or so, and none of the hours of footage that exist of entirely peaceful protests to help bridge the divide between police and their communities.
So that's the problem with the decentralized movement, is that they don't control every single chapter. They don't have a unifying doctrine. They have a unifying goal, right? And that's to erase the disparity against the African American demographic. They have that same end goal, but they don't have like the same doctrine or whatever across all the different groups of Black Lives Matter.
Terrorist organization. It's the most intellectually dishonest hit piece I've seen in a long time.
I don't think that we should deem them as a terrorist group. What I think you would have to do is take individual Black Lives Matter groups and say, hey, this is a terrorist organization. If there is a group that is organizing violent protests, that is organizing, that has been known to be violent in some way. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on a way that they could be violent because I'm not a fucking violent individual! But I think that you would have to look at that on a very micro level and not a macro level of the Black Lives Matter movement.
When it comes to BLM's tactics, who they are disrupting and why, commuters, colleges, LGBT events, political events, and more, I think their targets are often misplaced. Their message gets off track and they lose sight of their goals, but they're a new organization with an informal structure, so this is bound to happen. If we want others to see atheists as people who will come to the defense of those who are being treated poorly, let's help them draw attention to it in ways that we think will help. Even if we don't support BLM's tactics, calling them terrorists or telling black people to stop the murders in Chicago before we'll bother to help them, or telling them simply all lives matter or blue lives matter with no solutions makes us no better than the white people carrying signs in the 60s saying Negroes go home. Are we as
I do agree that throwing out all lives matter, blue lives matter, and then not doing anything about it is wrong. I mean, that you could say the exact same fucking thing about Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter, if somebody threw out Black Lives Matter and then they didn't do anything to prove that Black Lives Matter to fight for, lives mattering and whatnot, it's the exact same thing as what you're throwing at me here. What I care about is civil rights. I say civil rights matter. Our civil rights matter. No matter what color you are, no matter what gender you are, civil rights matter. But I do fault the Black Power portion of the movement because they're being utter dicks. And you can't sit there and turn your head to it, Zaunstar. You can't. You can't turn your head to the shit that happens in Black Lives Matter that is counter to what you're saying here. You have to brand them as part of the movement. And not only do you have to brand them as that, you have to admit that they're part of the movement. And you have to denounce them. You have to denounce those tactics. You say, no matter if we disagree with their tactics or not, I am not going to support a movement whose tactics I disagree with. I support the end cause. I don't fucking support the movement. Just like with third wave feminism, social justice warriors. You don't need to ignore the tactics. You need to pay particular attention to the tactics. You need to denounce the tactics. You need to promote the tactics that you agree with. You need to promote them as being good. And I feel like that is what you're telling us to do here. Just ignore that portion because they're not really part of the fucking movement. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Let me know down below what you think about my particular opinions on Black Lives Matter, or what are your thoughts specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement, about how, the Black Lives Matter came to be, how, what comprises of the Black Lives Matter movement and the problems there within. So let me know down below. I will see you guys later. You heathens have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stop using that fucking word. I hate that word.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna use the word because
man.
Stop me from using it.
I'm not trying to. I mean, it's a joke. I'm just kidding. But I don't like that word.
Okay. But you see, I don't get this. Basically. All right. In Islam, what you got? This one kitty fucker. Okay. He loves fucking kids, and so you need to promote the tactics that you feel are. Even God is behind me on this!